Welcome everyone. I'm Laura Pratt, class of 1981, and a member of the Cornell Committee on Alumni Trustee Nominations, which has nominated 4 outstanding candidates to run in this year's Alumni Trustee election. Alumni-Elected Trustees are your alumni representation on the Cornell Board of Trustees. 8 of the 64 members of the Cornell Board of Trustees are elected by our alumni, with 2 alumni trustees elected each year. Each alumni-elected trustee serves a 4-year term. This year's candidates have joined us today to answer 3 questions. Each candidate will have up to 4 minutes to respond to each question, and we'll rotate the order in which they speak. I'm now honored to introduce this year's candidates for alumni-elected trustee in alphabetical order. First, we have Teresa Flores, class of 1993. Stephanie Keene Fox, class of 1989. Jonathan K. Poe, class of 1982, and Robert A. Rosenberg, class of 1988. We'll now begin with the first question. How has your experience as an alumni volunteer and leader prepared you to serve in the role of alumni-elected trustee? John Poe, would you begin, please?
Sure, happy to do that, Laura. And before I do, I want to say thank you for hosting this panel. Laura and I go way back. I've known her actually when I was a freshman at orientation week, when her father, C.K. Pofrat, class of 53, probably the first trustee I've ever met, wanted to have a meeting. So it's a very small world, and thank you for having me here. I want to say that I have a lot of experience working for Cornell in a lot of different volunteer roles. The first one that comes to mind is the Cornell Alumni Admissions Ambassador Network. I've been a member there for 33 years, served 5 years as the committee chair for that group. It is the largest group from a geography point of view. If we put it on the East Coast, it would span from Boston to Norfolk, Virginia, to give you an idea. So it goes from Oregon to Nevada down to San Luis Obispo. I've also worked in the local Alumni Association, been a director there for 11 years, 3 years as a president of the most active Alumni Association. We were the first ones to have email addresses and the first one to have a website. I've also worked at University Council for 2 terms, working with a lot of different staff on outreach and fundraising, dean's initiatives and things of that nature. I've also worked at the Tower Club, 22 years there, 13 years as committee chair for the San Francisco Silicon Valley Group, getting people to commit to that other level. And I would also say I have 28 years as a board member for the Cornell Engineering Alumni Association. I see Dale and Tom there, and I'm thinking about all the years that we've worked together. I've done 4 terms there as an officer, working with 4 different deans on things like curriculum, building, special projects, etc. So they weren't just membership positions or committee chair positions. We actually did some pretty in-depth work. I'm reminded of in the undergraduate admissions office, working with Dean Don Saleh and the athletic director Charlie Moore, class of 50 at the time. Charlie had 14 staff that were just dedicated to getting the right athletes into Cornell. And the deans of the colleges felt that they could do that for Charlie. So we talked about that concept, tried to figure out the right process, did that transition, and that resulted in those 14 people being reallocated to things like coaching the women's soccer team, coaching the women's hockey team, coaching the women's softball team. And it also gave the deans a better chance to widen up the pool that they were looking for. So working with the deans of admissions like Dick Wagner at ILR, Brenda Bricker, Human Ecology, Tuck Tirana for Arts and Sciences, we not only incorporated that function, but I also had to look at the scale. We were primarily a paper-based application system at the time, and we knew that we had to incorporate things like video and artwork into that application, as well as scale. We were about 13,000 applications at the time, and I remember them giving me this incredulous look to prepare for 50,000. And here we are at 53,000 applications now, on the way to 100,000, right? So we have to think about scale, about different forms than paper, as well as to kind of look at freshmen from non-traditional sources, such as if they're homeless, no high school record for 4 years, or maybe they're grandparents and trying to finish up their education. So that gives you an idea of kind of some of the in-depth type of work that I've done. I want to close by talking about some of the long pieces of work that I've done, one of which is the 125th celebration in San Francisco. And that involved 4 days of events, 30 committee members, 2 years of planning, 14 deans getting to agree on trains of thought, which, again, we're hearing laughter here, so you know how hard that is. And to be able to showcase that in front of 850 high school students and more than 2,000 alums. So that's the kind of experience that I kind of bring, and hopefully we'll be able to do if chosen. Back to you, Laura.
Thank you. Next, we have Rob Rosenberg. Would you like to begin, please?
Sure. I'd also like to thank Alumni Affairs and Development for organizing the panel and for the Committee on Alumni Trustee Nominations for including me among this distinguished and highly qualified group. So ever since the day that I packed up the car, graduated, and drove off campus from Cornell, I've been working as a volunteer for Cornell. Back then, I was vice president of my class. 2 weeks ago, I was with the Cornell Club of Westchester at Cornell Cares Day. I think that the experience that all of these alumni leadership experiences bring will help serve as a trustee because what they've brought to all of us, is this broad and deep range of experiences and connections with the university and with all the different groups that comprise the Cornell community. I've been a class of '88 officer or class council member for the last 26 years, even more than 26 years if you count 4 years that I spent as president of the class of '88 when I was an undergraduate. I'm a 12-year board member of CAECO, including 4 years spent as president of CAECO, where I worked with classes spanning a range of 70 years in class leaders. I'm a 6-year member of the Cornell Alumni Magazine Committee, during which there's been a lot of change. The magazine came online, which that in turn had an impact on CAECO and the classes and the class dues structure as well. Other alumni involvements, I've been on the Rhodes and Vanneman Awards committees. I've been on the Alumni Affairs Steering Committee. I was actually part of the focus group for the CU Volunteers database. We were one of the first groups to experiment with the database for the Office of Volunteer Programs. Over the years, I've also been able to contribute to different trustee groups, including the Trustee Committee for Alumni Affairs and the Task Force for Volunteer Leadership. And it was from the work of those groups, among other groups, that I think there was tremendous strides made in recognizing the value of volunteers' time and talent in addition to the treasure that they donate to Cornell, which I think, that we have so many people that spend countless hours on behalf of the university that it's an important shift in perspective that I think was very helpful. I think one of the other things that also came from that was the renewed focus on national and international engagement of alumni rather than just to focus on those that were here in New York. Almost all of the work that I've done has involved students. I've been to countless networking receptions, events. I've hosted them. I've attended them for CAECO, for the classes, for CAA, University Council, Mosaic. I've been an extern sponsor, extern program, and the Fresh program are two programs through the Career Center. I've been involved in the Cornell Communications Department Job Camp program, which is held every year, and it's a job program for communications majors. So all of these involvements they bring me back to campus 3 or 4 times a year. So I've never been too far from the university, unlike some, who maybe haven't been back other than reunions. I'm literally there over and over, so I'm able to see changes and hear about changes. And, I think all of that has been, adds to the experience.
Next, Teresa Flores.
Laura, thank you so much, and thank you to all of the nomination committee members for having us here. Like all of the candidates here, I have spent many years with the Cornell Ambassador Program. I think it's been one of the most rewarding experiences, and I can definitely say in the 15 to 16 years that I've been doing it, I've seen a progressive development in the types of students that we get that apply to Cornell. I tell prospective students, I tell current students, and I tell current alumni or new alumni that graduating from Cornell is a gift that keeps on giving. It is a university that continues to open doors. I think that the fact that I went to this great university opens more doors for me now than it did when I first graduated. It took me about 13 years to go back to the university for the first time. That, however, didn't mean that I was not involved, but going back to the university really invigorated my role as a volunteer and the things that I wanted to do. I feel that I've been rewarded because of the volunteer work that I do by the university. Not too long ago, I was appointed to serve on the Cornell University Council, and I suspect that that is one of the reasons why I'm here today, because of the role that I have played there. I am also now a member of PCCW, where I've had an opportunity to meet many, many wonderful women, and coincidentally women who I had not met through my other university volunteer experiences. I think that the university is doing a wonderful job in engaging especially juniors and seniors and preparing them for their role as a volunteer for the university. And I'm proud to have been part of that. I've also spent some time mentoring students throughout the years, and I'm so proud to now be in a position where some of those students have graduated and have moved on and have kept in touch with me. I have to admit that I think social media plays a big role in how we are very involved with the university and know what's going on in the university and are able to spread the good news that Cornell has to offer. So regardless of the outcome, I intend to continue to be very involved and to use my network to engage and to be a good volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. And finally, we have Stephanie King Fox.
Thank you. Well, first, I join my other candidates in saying thank you so much for the nomination. I'm sure that we all agree this is probably one of the great honors of our lives to be nominated for this. And we're so passionate about Cornell, it really is meaningful. So thank you for that. Well, I've held many roles for Cornell, worn many hats. Like my fellow candidates, and I know that you have bioforms for all of us, everything ranging from working with CAN to hosting events in different regions that I've lived in. And also leading university-wide groups. So what I thought I would do is just kind of dive more deeply into one of those experiences, which I think most translates to the role of Alumni-Elected Trustee, and that is being president of the Cornell Alumni Association. The thing that I think is so important about that particular role is that it's one that really has an incredible breadth as well as depth in terms of understanding what's happening with our alumni. The Cornell Alumni Association represents essentially all alumni groups. We have 65 members. They represent different regions. They also represent different constituent groups, including Mosaic, PCCW that Teresa mentioned, CAECO. As Rob was president of CAECO, we worked very closely together. So in that way, you really get a great overview of what's happening in the university, and you understand how these different pieces fit together. So it's been a wonderful experience, and I think that the thing that we really evolved the organization. So, there are two key components. One is we had a tremendous culture change. We were more of an honorary board and had a lot of reporting structure, and then really shifted that culture to be more of a roll up your sleeves, working board. And doing that actually is really challenging. It's something that involves getting a lot of consensus from different people that are involved in the board, and bringing everyone along together. So I think that evolution of CAA, which is continuing, is one of the key components and a key learning experience that I had. And I think the other thing is we put together for the first time under my leadership real metrics about what we are going to do. What are the goals for CAA? How do we give back to the university? How does that map to what Cornell needs? And key metrics towards how do we accomplish that? Were we successful? What can we do better next time? So that type of thing, I think, really made that a more effective organization, and it's something that I'm very, very proud to have been a part of. And really kudos to the entire CAA board, because it was a lot of hard work. When I think about my role as an alum from Cornell, I really see myself as a connector, as somebody that can build bridges between different organizations and understand how all these pieces work together. And I think that that's really important because, you know, we all live in a world where 1 + 1 can equal more than 2, depending on how you approach it. And that has always been my goal. It's a huge time of change for the university, and we need connectors to engage our alumni and figure out how we can leverage what is one of the greatest assets of Cornell University, which is our alumni, and make Cornell stronger and better moving forward. So I think that my role at CAA president, things that we did, are things that translate very well to what we're trying to do in the Alumni-Elected Trustee position.